Hello. Today we are going to walk through profiling an exact device. Now I have an exact instrument, or what we might call an exact 1, and an exact 2 instrument. I'm only going to walk through the exact 2 device, but suffice it to say that either of these instruments can be profiled using the same profiling card or standard. So I want to talk about that for a second. So here's the card. It's got these series of swatches on it. There's another piece we'll see as we go through the process. On the card here, we very clearly identify how to use the card with each instrument. So for an exact, this type of device, I'm going to hold the instrument like that when I do my measurements, okay, as it shows in the picture. With this instrument, I'm going to hold it the opposite way, right? It's going to go this way across the card as I measure, as shown here, okay? That's the only difference between the way we profile either of those devices. So let's go ahead and profile our exact 2 instrument. So to start, I've got NetProfiler software online launched, and I'm going to go tell it that I want to create a new profile. And that's going to prompt the software through the device bridge to reach out and see, do you have an instrument connected? And it detected this exact 2 with its serial number. And I'm going to go ahead and select this device. So I want to profile this. The next thing I have to do is tell it its NP standard serial number, which is on a little sticker right here on the card. Okay, and I can see it is ETS 38701. 38701. Okay, when I hit the next button, it's searching for that standard, and it's going to say, yep, it found it. These cards have a use limit, so it has 25 uses remaining. I can use it 25 more times before exposure to light and age and wear and tear would make it unusable. I'd have to replace it after that. Okay? Or if I don't use it that many times, it also has an expiration date. Okay? So I'm ready to use that. I also have to tell it that my device and my standard are clean and the temperature is stable, so it didn't just come from a hotter or colder place and be brought into where I'm using it. Both of these things have been here for a while. They're not changing temperature anymore is the key. And I also have to indicate that I understand any existing profile on this device is going to be removed as soon as I hit Start Profiling. We need you to be aware that that profile will be gone because we need to get rid of it so we can build a new one. Okay, so we're going to start profiling. And the first thing it's going to do is, it says, place your device in a charging base to calibrate. So that's this. That has the calibration standard in it. Okay, so I'm going to put it in place. I'm going to click on Calibrate. We're going to wait a second while the device says calibrating in yellow on the screen. It says calibration complete. Once it knows that that calibration is complete, it moves on automatically. So it tells me calibration was successful, and I'm ready to go to the next step. So it's put it into targeting mode, and it says, using your graphic art standard card, measure the fluor white and gloss black patches. So it's actually showing them with an overlay of the instrument on top of them. So that's this card. Okay, I'm going to slide that out of the way a little bit so that I can take this down, and I can target it over the patch labeled fluor white. I'm going to take a measurement of that, press the measurement button, and you'll see I've got a green check mark and the word measured. Now I'm going to move it down and through the video targeting find the gloss black, measure that. It's a green check mark, and we have passed that part of the profile. So those 2 measurements I can now continue, and I need to then calibrate again, which just means put it back in the base, click on Calibrate. The little yellow message box comes up on here, says Calibrating. All right, so the next step says, using the plastic repeatability base, measure the white and black tiles. And what that's talking about is not the card, but in the folder we also have this base, okay, which has a white and a black tile on it. So I'm going to just set those right there. This is built so it's the same size as the device, so I can very easily take the instrument. We'll just slide it that way a little bit. And I'm going to target either the white or the black. Okay. It says in the orange there. Several measurements will be taken of each tile. Press and hold the device until it's done. Okay? So I'm going to start measuring. I need it to stay in place. So I don't want it to move. It's going to do 12 measurements of that white tile. And then when it's done with those, I will repeat this process for the black. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to go ahead and target the black. And in this one, I'm going to actually click the measure button. I can also take my hands off. That way I don't have to worry about shaky hands or I'm not paying attention and I move the device. Because if I did that, it would invalidate the test. So you can do it that way as well. What we're doing with these measurements is validating, can this instrument repeatably measure white? So we're testing all of the white measurements against themselves. And the same with the black, to see can the instrument repeatably measure the same color. Because if we can't pass this, there's no point in profiling, because it means that the device has some issue with measurement, right? So it's a repeatability test. We've got one more measurement left on the black. That's done, and we will get another green check mark that says it's been measured. Okay, those are done successfully, so we can hit next. Now we're going to go back to calibrate, and we will click on calibrate, and while I do that, I'm going to put this tile away because I'm done with it. That's the only thing it's used for in this process. Okay. Calibration is done, and now it's ready for us to measure these colors. Okay, you'll notice the colors it's indicating, not the fluor white or the gloss black, because we've already done those, the other patches in between. But before I can measure them or do anything, you'll notice it says enter the temperature as displayed on the thermometer in the folder. So on this in this folder, there's a thermometer, right? It's what we call a fish tank thermometer kind of thing, right? So you can look at that and read and say, it gives you some guidance here on how to read the temperature on that, okay? And so this one right now says it's 70. So I'm going to type in 70, hit the checkbox. I've got an edit button if I made a mistake and need to retype it. But now that that temperature is in, I can go ahead and take these measurements. And it tells me order of measuring does not matter. So taking this instrument, making sure I keep it in the right orientation as is defined on the card for this instrument. Okay, I'm going to measure the red, and you'll see I get a delta E, and then I can measure the next tile and the next one. And I'm always being careful to try and target the very center of each tile, okay, so that I'm always measuring them in the same spot. So I'm doing that, and I'm getting these delta E's on these different swatches. Delta E's compared to what? Compared to the stored values for this card. So its serial number is tied to a set of stored values for this card. Those values came from an X-Rite gold standard, or what we call a centroid kind of instrument. Okay, centroid instrument measures the card when it's produced at X-Rite. Those values are stored in the NetProfiler database. Now when I'm measuring with this instrument, it's using those stored values and comparing this instrument in its native state to that. In other words, how far away from there are we, right? Through age, wear and tear, environment, is this instrument measuring different than it should than the centroid values? So we've got delta E values. They're not huge, but they're not zeros either. So there is some variation, okay? Now, if I made a mistake on one of them, if I had a really high delta E on one and I look and see, oh, there was a piece of dust there, fingerprint or something, I could take care of that and remeasure it if I needed to. I'm okay with these results, so I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, and now, using the plastic repeatability base, we're going to measure the white and black repeatability again. So we're going to pull it back out. Okay. Set that there, same exact process as before. We put it on one of the patches, whichever one we want to start on, press and hold, and off we go. All right, 0.06, and the black, 0.33, okay? So it's also using those as part of the profiling process. They're not repeatability measurements this time. They're being used as part of the profile. All right, put that back out of the way for safekeeping and move on. and it's time to calibrate again. So all of the measurements we've just done are going to be used to generate a profile, and that profile is going to just live in this NetProfiler software right now. Okay? And what we're going to be doing next is remeasuring everything to test how well does that profile perform. So to start with, I've got to give it its temperature again. It's still sitting at the same temperature, 70, because I'm in a room that's pretty stable. Okay, and now I'm going to measure those samples again. So we go and, just for fun, I'm going to measure them in the opposite order this time and do green first. So now the delta E's, and you'll notice on the header above where the numbers are shown up, the delta E's are profiled. So now it's using the profile that it generated to calculate, or to correct, if you will, the measured values of each swatch. Okay? And we are testing and validating, does this profile actually give me more centroid, better measurements? Okay? So we've got those measured. Hit next one more time with the black and the white. There's the white. There's the black. Okay. And we go there. We should be finished with all of our measurements. Now it's calculating and validating that profile. And once it's validated it, if it's successful and it passes the tolerance limit, it's going to say new profile applied to device, and we're going to get a green check mark here. It says NetProfiler is now active on your device, and a profile is valid for the next 30 days. And in fact, on the screen of this instrument, it's very small, there's a NetProfiler icon down there that's now green. Okay, that green NetProfiler icon is telling me that this device has a profile on it and it's active and valid. 31 days from now, that's not green anymore. Okay? It's red. Or if I turn it off, it's gray. Right? So NetProfiler can be on or off. I could turn it off in the device if I wanted to, for example. All right. So we've done all that, but how did all the results look? Right? We've got some summary things here, but I prefer going to the report. So let's view the report. Our certificate of performance from NetProfiler includes things like the device, its serial number, the date and time we did the test, the color standard that was used, what temperature we used when we did our creation step and our validation step. And for all four M conditions, M0, 1, 2, and 3, we get unprofiled and profiled delta E's. At the bottom here, we're looking at averages. So for example, in M0, unprofiled we were at 0.3, profiled we're at 0.18, okay? And the same for M1, M2, M3. You can see in all four cases, our profile improved the agreement of this device to the centroid, okay? Really important. Why? Because if this device reads like the centroid and the other devices in your workflow read like the centroid, then your devices are reading like one another. It eliminates some of the variation that could be coming from devices. So with that, we've got a profile loaded. That report, by the way, is also stored in the cloud, so you can go to your MyXRite account and re-access that if you ever need it. You know, if an auditor or something wants to see, are you doing quality testing on your instruments, you could show them that. But for now, we would simply put our NetProfiler materials away, store them away safely, so that 30 days or 29 days from now, I can go back and reprofile that instrument. And I can have great confidence in the measurements that I'm taking because my instrument's been NetProfiled. Thank you.